So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session on COVID-19 and its impact on graduate recruitment. Before I over to our speaker this afternoon, Dan Hawes, my name's Tiffany. I'm one of the careers consultants, and I'm just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping with you. So the session is going to be running for, I think it's going to be an hour, speaking to you for about 30 minutes or so. And you're more than welcome throughout the session to ask questions, but please put yourself on mute and type anything for Dan into the chat box, and I will be looking through those and passing them on to him at regular intervals. So at the end of the session, if you've been to any of our sessions, you'll know what else is coming. We're going to ask you to fill out some feedback, and we really do read this feedback and taking it on board. This is the first time we've run an online session, so we will be having a good read of what you're going to be telling us. So I'm just going to put our feedback link in to the chat, so you'll have it in advance, ready and waiting for you. So there it is, and it's really important, particularly if you're from business or the School of Health and Human Sciences and you're doing the LondonMet passport. You really will need to fill in that feedback form, because if you don't, you're not going to get points passport. So without further ado, you've heard enough of me for a little while. I'm going to pass you over to Dan Hawes, our speaker, who's from the Graduate Recruitment Bureau. So over to you now, Dan.
Hello, thank you very much, Tiffany. And hello to all our students and graduates who've tuned in today to hear about how COVID-19 is affecting graduate recruitment. Now, I've got some slides which, Tiffany, if you can put the first one up, please.
Yep, sure.
Thank you. Lovely.
There we are.
Thank you very much, Tiffany. So, by way of introduction, my name is Dan Hawes, and I'm the co-founder of Graduate Recruitment Bureau, or GRB. Now, we are the go-to platform for high-caliber university students, graduates, and recruiters. We were established in 1997 by myself and another business studies graduate from Brighton University. We now have over 65 staff and over 1,800 clients across all sectors, clients such as the Post Office, IBM, Unilever and Ocado, so some big well-known names, but also several fast-growing SMEs that usually go under the radar for a lot of graduates. These are companies that have venture capital, they have big growth plans, and they need exceptional talent. Now, in the 23 years we've been going, our recruitment experts have successfully matched over 8,000 graduates with full-time graduate level jobs. We're based in Brighton. I'm coming at you from the office today. I'm the only one here. All our team are furloughed or working from home. So I'm here to make sure that the systems are running smoothly and they can do their jobs. So if we could move to the next slide, please, Tiffany. So the situation we're in. This is affecting everyone in the world right now. For graduate recruitment, universities, students, graduates, employers, we're all in this together. So these are just some of the headlines I picked out from the news feeds that I follow. The FT particularly, I've always got my nose in the FT. Only today I was reading some more useful information that I'll pass on in a minute. But they had an article there about the job prospects for the class of 2020, which is a huge concern right now for all of the students and graduates out there who consider first step into the world of work. So that was a very good article. There are some positive signs within that article, which I'll share with you later. The BBC also reported recently how universities have had to adapt. So Cambridge, for example, next year, for the entire term are actually doing their lectures online. Now, whether universities will follow suit is yet to be seen. Some universities may just do the first term in the autumn online, and they may gradually open their doors to students. But for those looking to apply to university, many may be thinking of taking a year out, or if they do decide to go to university, do they want to pay the full fees where it won't really be the same experience? Statistics have shown that online courses have a much higher dropout rate because students have less support. So it'd be interesting to see how studying remotely, be it entirely or a hybrid version, will affect student numbers going forward. In The Guardian, they also reported on big name recruiters slashing graduate jobs, but a positive note there about students mustn't lose hope. Now, I want to share with you as much positivity as possible, reassurance, and some tips that will help you make those first steps in your career. As I said, I've helped thousands of students and graduates in the last 23 years. We've been through downturns before. We had 9/11, we had the financial crisis in 2008, and now we've got this. This is very different. There are huge implications for the jobs market, but there are some opportunities there. There are some steps you can take, and I'm going to share some of those with you now. If you could have the next slide, please. Thank you. So just to go into more detail about our world right now and the situation we're in. So 500,000 graduates about to enter the jobs market, and they'll be looking to pay off 50,000 on average debt after 3 years of study. So a lot of people entering the job market, also competing with a lot of people who've been made redundant. So competition will be fierce, and finding those job opportunities, getting your CV through the door on a selector's desk for them to interview you will be of paramount importance. And I'm sure the advice that LondonMet can provide you on applying for jobs, improving your CV, your covering letter, is now more important than ever before. So they've reiterated it over the years. We constantly explain to students and graduates that it is so important to get this right, and now more so than ever, you really need to be paying attention to all the advice that's out there. Now, I said at the start, we're in a recession. This is on a global scale. So I was referring to the FT earlier. I just read today that economists are trying to predict how the bounce is going to be, and they've often referred to different shapes. So a V shape, and they're referring to GDP. A V shape is the best scenario where there's a very quick bounce back. A U shape obviously is more protracted. There's a wheelbarrow scenario as well, and there's other projections. No one really knows with any certainty. Without a vaccine, we still have so much uncertainty, so it's very hard to predict. But if we look at previous recessions, and the most recent one in 2008, that took about 18 months before the economy corrected itself, give or take. Looking at these scenarios, the best possible scenario is a 6-month return to normal, and the worst case being 18 months. So this is very hard to predict, and equally, employers are going to find it hard to commit to hiring anyone if their cash flow isn't good, or their balance sheet isn't very strong, or they don't have the plans to grow. All this uncertainty just means that recruitment gets very hard to start, manage, and execute. So we're in a recession, things are tough, and we don't quite know how long it's going to last for. Now, the recruiters that we've been speaking to recently none of them have said they're going to stop recruitment. That's the good news. In the last recession in 2008, several recruiters did actually stop recruiting. Now they've either deferred start dates or they're actually postponing recruitment. So that's not great either, but at least they're not completely cutting off their talent pipeline. And that's the key. A lot of big recruiters need graduates coming through their talent pipeline for succession planning, for their future managers, for their future directors, and it provides new, fresh talent, skill sets that they need, certainly when we come out of this in this new economy, to keep their companies moving forward. So that's good. For you, it means that had you not started your job applications earlier, because a lot of those people now have those jobs, it means there's fewer jobs to go round right now. And dates are being postponed, so it's still quite hard to know when to apply for these jobs too. So you really need to keep up to date with what these are doing. The minute a recruiter opens up their vacancy, you need to get on it. So that's the situation with the bigger FTSE 100 traditional graduate recruiters, and we deal with lots of those at the moment. Now, on the flip side, there are thousands of other companies that are fast-growing SMEs who, up to this point, were taking on lots of graduates. Now, we've seen a reduction in that with our clients who are SMEs. They have cash flow issues. They've got several people furloughed. They've had to make people redundant. Some of them may not make it through. So it's been particularly challenging for SMEs who don't have a very strong balance sheet, and thinking about graduate recruitment, which is all about the future, is not something they can do right now. They have more immediate concerns, and that's about survival. So SMEs are struggling. Now, the other thing is that if full-time jobs are not safe, then entry-level jobs are not safe at all. So we talked about how companies are making people redundant, putting people on furloughs. They're trying to keep the people that they have right now and protect those jobs. So they're not looking to create new jobs, which very often are for graduates at entry level. So that's the situation right now. But it's changing. It looks like we've come through a particularly bad patch, and things hopefully will improve in the future. But the fact of the matter is, lots of people's jobs are under threat. Now, for some graduates, this period will be particularly challenging. It will be a very steep learning curve, and it can be very easy for you to slip into a negative mindset. There's a lot of time on your own reflecting, which if you can turn it into a positive, you can start to think about your options more clearly. But for a lot of people, it can only add to their anxieties and their worries, and students and graduates need so much reassurance at the best of times about starting their career, and for some it can make them slip into a negative mindset. So well, I'm going to provide you with some positive steps in a second to help you think positively and not lose sight of your career goals. But it's not easy. People are having to work remotely, and that's not always what people are happy doing. Now, one thing we've learned is that in recessions, graduates will sometimes become risk averse. So they may not go for working for a startup or other companies in certain new sectors, shall we say, because they are deemed more risky right now. So many graduates revert back to safer options, such as teaching, working in the public sector, jobs and kind of careers that offer more financial security, because having gone through this now, maybe their finances have been affected. So they're thinking, if I have to go through this again, I'd like to have more savings. So a safer job with steady pay scales and increases is far more a safer option right now. It's totally understandable, but graduates may decide to flock to those kind of sectors, those kind of jobs that offer that security. So that's an interesting dynamic that will free up opportunities for these riskier jobs, riskier sectors, and lots of companies are started up in recession, so there are opportunities there as well. Now, the other concern is that after 3 years of study, has your degree now equipped you with the skill set, with the mindset that this new economy is requiring? We're talking to companies, and they're looking for graduates who are resilient, who have a critical thinking and a certain way of thinking and approaching problems, and have commercial awareness. So it's very important that graduates are able to demonstrate those skills, and it's not too late. There are opportunities to demonstrate those skills, but for certain graduates that we're dealing with, they've always been in demand, typically STEM graduates. So science, technology, engineering and maths have usually been the kind of graduates that our clients look for. We've got clients who look for a broad range of subjects, and sometimes they aren't actually bothered about the degree subject. They want a graduate, but they also look at other skill sets as well. And that's actually a common misconception, certainly for careers like accountancy. You don't actually need an accountancy degree for a lot of firms, in fact. So it just makes it worthwhile to probably look back on what you've learned from your degree, and the most important thing are the transferable skills. That makes you employable. So if you've got any concerns about whether your degree will be in demand, think about the skills that you've hoovered up in those 3 years, and that will make you more employable and more attractive in the eyes of employers. Now, graduates who have left it until now, I mentioned before that there may be some wishing they'd applied earlier. There are narrower options. Obviously, a lot of these vacancies will now have been filled. So the danger is that graduates panic. They can't get their dream job straight away, and they turn to a job that could be a dead-end job. And that's a bit of a trap. So the idea is the first position you have is a launch pad for your career. So there are different ways of getting to your ideal job. You can zigzag from 3 or 4 jobs before you end up at the one that you really want, but you have to be very careful that you're not ending up in a dead-end job. Okay, so the good news. Here are some positive steps that you can take. So, as I said, we've been interns before. We've helped thousands of students and graduates come through this situation before. This is very different, but there are certain elements that mean that you can take positive steps to come through this. And it isn't all about getting a job straight away. You do have options. So for those who are career-minded, first of all, don't lose sight of your career goals. You've been at university for 3 or 4 years. You spend a lot of time, a lot of money. You want the career that you deserve. So do not lose sight of your career goal. You may not get that job straight away. Some graduates don't get their dream job straight away in the best of times. So as I said before, you can take 3 or 4 jobs before you actually get there. Now, one way to figure out different paths to your career goal is to look on LinkedIn. Have a look at someone who is fairly senior into their role, in a company, in a job that is kind of you're aiming for. Chances are they will have put their career history on LinkedIn. Look at their first job, look at their second job, look at their third job, see the twists and turns that they took, and then look at someone else, and then someone else, and then someone else, and build a picture of all these different routes you could take to get your dream job. But it's very important to stay focused on your career goals, number one. Number two, so in this recession, certain sectors have been hit really badly. We're reading about them all the time. The aviation industry, Virgin making redundancies, EasyJet, pictures of planes parked up everywhere. Who knows how long that will take to recover. So chances are there aren't many opportunities there, or if there are, they'll be very, very competitive. Likewise, tourism, leisure, hospitality, these kind of industries where they're meeting people face to face or cash is being exchanged in person. These are the sectors that are really going to struggle. So, you know, you're going to have to look beyond those sectors, park those for the time being, but focus on sectors that are seeing a surge in activity. So, you know, we're dealing with some huge online retailers, and they're taking on hundreds of graduates for trainee management roles. So these aren't stacking shelves, they're all degree level jobs, and they're looking for people because some sectors are noticing huge surges in activity. So if you look at online retail as a sector, and then look at all the subsectors around that, like logistics, supply chain, all of those are increasing as well. So there's a ripple effect around online retail, and there are opportunities there. If you do your research and dig around, follow the news, you will find companies that are doing pretty well right now. So it's worth jumping on board with them. Also, any in-home service, so I'm referring to things like Deliveroo or any food service or drinks providers, all sorts of things are happening out there. Think of the services you've used or you've seen advertised that are bringing products or goods to your home. That's an industry in itself. So there'll be opportunities there. Healthcare and medical, for obvious reasons, that might mean that a lot of people are trying to apply for that sector. They probably are oversubscribed, but there may be pockets within that that there are opportunities that people may not immediately think of. So, you know, they'll be looking for financial people, let's say. They're not all looking for scientists or doctors. They do have various functions within those organizations. So think laterally, think of the different opportunities within a medical firm, and there could be opportunities there for you. FinTech, this was doing very well before we went into this recession, and we're starting to see some companies come back right now and starting to their vacancies. So this is financial tech. You know, London has so many FinTech firms. Google's your friend. Just try and find out how many have received venture capital or funding of some sort, or hit the press for whatever reason. But that's a huge sector, certainly in London, if you're looking for jobs there. Cybersecurity, again, that was on the up before this recession. They're starting to hire again because there are increasingly concerns about more people going online and the danger of their details getting taken by criminal organizations. So cybersecurity, super important right now. So it's certainly worth looking into that sector. Analytics, so by that I mean any job that involves really digging into data. We have clients who look for people who've done economics, econometrics, maths kind of degrees. So that's a very, very big sector. Big data, it's also called. Finally, technical consultancies. You know, everything has been fast forwarded 5 years. So companies that were on the fence about investing in technology are now doing it. So technical consultancies are noticing a surge in their activity, particularly with online platforms like this, There are so many different companies popping up. It's not Zoom or Blackboard. There are loads of other companies out there as well, and they might need a marketing person to market the product and get known in the marketplace. So there's an example of some of the sectors that we're seeing are recruiting, or we expect them to be recruiting in bigger numbers right now. Now, it's important when you start university that you build your CV with skills that employers will value. Your career service will explain about grad employability. It's a massive issue in universities because they want to prepare graduates for the business world as much as possible. It's not just about the subject you study, it's everything else around your time at university, what you do with extracurricular activities, working with student societies, volunteering, coming up with ideas of your own, all those other extra bits build your skill set. So now is just as important time to continue doing that, to make sure that you're putting yourself in the strongest position. Now, of course, you have to think, how can I do this remotely? But there are opportunities to volunteer remotely. I know various councils are looking for volunteers to help the local community with having chats with people who are old, lonely, or for whatever reason they're isolated. So they're looking for people to have virtual meetups with those individuals. So that's just one example. If you want, you could work in retail. More and more shops are starting to open up now. But the important thing is to not lose sight of building these skills so your CV is the best it possibly can be during this time. Now, we have a lot more time than we normally would right now. To begin with, people may have sat back and relaxed, treated it as a holiday, but I think people need to be proactive and make sure they're using this time productively now. But it can be big steps to take if you're working remotely. It's much easier to take smaller steps to gather momentum during this period. So, one thing you could do from home is actually practice certain parts of the selection process. So more and more employers will be conducting virtual assessments, virtual interviews, virtual onboarding, virtual training. So how can you prepare for that? So the very first thing will be an interview. Now, we advise students and graduates all the time who are very anxious about face-to-face interviews, let alone virtual interviews. So, make sure your audio's good, your video's clear, you have no distractions, your broadband's not going to go down, what's in the background, your body language, all these kind of things come into play in a virtual interview. So how can you get the best version of yourself across in a virtual setting? Don't leave it till the actual interview itself, but practice several times with a family member or a friend, and do a mock virtual interview. You'll feel a lot more confident by practicing, and then when it comes to it, you'll be able to nail that interview. Just focus on that for now, and you can worry about the rest of the other assessments that they do down the line. But the important thing is to use this time for things like that, you in the best possible position. Now, I mentioned that 500,000 graduates will be entering the job market, along with all the other experienced people that are being made redundant right now. It's so important to try and stand out and get noticed. So doing things like this, learning about what your service can offer you, improving your CV are all give you a great foundation, but it's all about reaching these recruiters now and extending your network. So one of the ways is using a recruitment agency like us. We have contacts with thousands of recruiters. LinkedIn, get on there, put up a profile, start searching for HR people, recruitment managers, early talent leads, early careers managers. They go under different titles, but start reaching out to those individuals. Job boards obviously will have lots of jobs on there, so sign up, get their email alerts, and your career service. You may not be able to go in person, but there's lots of virtual tools you can use to prepare you for the jobs market. So one way of getting noticed, and I've seen it happen many times, are actually sending speculative letters. Now, what this means is you're sending out your CV with a covering letter to an employer that may not necessarily be advertising for a graduate, okay? So the idea with this is to do some research. So you've got your ideas of the kind of sector that you're looking to work in. Narrow it down to the kind of companies you'd like to work for. Don't just look at the big name ones. Look at other companies below the radar. So it might be, you know, in a business park. You know, go on a map, look at Street View, look at the entrance to the business park, and they'll have a sign with all the companies who are based there, and you can zoom in and have a look at the companies. They are quite hard to find, but business parks could be a good start for you. Find those companies, find the recruitment manager, or if they're a fairly small firm, it may be someone who actually owns the firm. It could be the CEO or the MD. Don't be afraid about going straight to the top. The way you do this is you look at what the company do, see what products or services they provide. If there's something in the news, have a look at that. And then in your covering letter, refer to these projects, refer to these contracts they've won, the new products or services they're working on. And then in your CV, you can explain the kind of skill sets that you can bring, be it a certain technical skill or transferable skill or just a fresh way of thinking that can really make a difference to their bottom line. That's what they will be looking for. They don't have to spend months training you up, but if you can bring a skill set that's going to make a difference straight away, that puts you in a very strong position. So do your research. Find those companies, look at your covering letter, go through it several times, make sure that it really is selling you, and then back it up with a really good CV, and boom, hopefully they will think, you know what, we want this person. We didn't think we needed them before, now we need them. Let's create a job. And I've seen this happen. So thousands of jobs are unadvertised or you know, just not created until you actually take that step. So speculative applications are certainly something that you should consider. There's quite a lot of homework, but the return can be really good rather than sending out thousands of CVs to all the other companies that everyone else is sending CVs to. So have a think about that. Now, when you get to interview stage, chances are the selector will ask you, what did you do in the lockdown? So you need to come up with a good answer. Now, we've talked about using your time productively, so I can't emphasize this enough. You need to have evidence of what you've been doing to move forward and build on your skill set. So we talked about, you know, practicing interviews and things like that. You don't need to refer to that. What you do need to refer to are the certain skills that you've learned or developed more. So there are various online learning courses that are free. The Open University, Harvard University, Future Learn is another one. You can go on, you can find a specific skill. It might be that you want to be a pro at Excel, whatever it is. Have a look, and you can go on these online learning courses, and that'd be really a really good thing to say at interview, that you've actually taken that initiative and actually added another skill to your skill set. We talked about volunteering as well. There are opportunities out there. You should be looking for those. They present great opportunities for you to develop new skills that you had before. You know, turn this pandemic into an opportunity as much as possible. See if you can get contract or part-time work as well, ultimately, and show that, you know, you've come through this. You're resilient. That is a number one skill recruiters keep saying. They want to see resilience, and this is a very good way of showing that this hasn't set you back. This has actually made you step up and do even more than your average graduate. So there will be other things that you can do in the time, but you will be asked that question, and you need a very strong answer to get noticed. Now, I've talked mainly about how to enter the jobs market, but you have got other options. You don't have to start a job straight away. I know Brexit hasn't helped things for people moving around Europe. That may be problematic now, but you could go further abroad when flights are available. I mean, we're placing people in China, as a matter of fact, because they're ahead of the curve now. It's actually safer to be there. So, you know, if you're prepared to go long haul, there are opportunities within other countries that are coming out of this pandemic at the very forefront. And their economy is massive anyway, so there's far more opportunities. So, you know, don't just be thinking that the UK is it. There are opportunities to use your youth and energy and develop those skills in another country. You could also start your own business. You know, if you've been thinking about doing this, now is a great opportunity. So many businesses start in a recession. Airbnb, Uber, a lot of these firms were started in a downturn, and now is a good opportunity to do that. You've got time to think about a business plan, so it's not just any old idea you've thought of. You've got time to really do some research and really think about it. And you know, if it was a side hustle to begin with, maybe you could scale something up and you know, make your own career. Now, one of the big consideration is postgraduate study. There are hundreds, thousands of graduates right now thinking, you know what, I'm better off staying on at university. That comes at a cost. It is time out of the job market, but if you're going to do it, now would be a good opportunity. Maybe you have thought that maybe there's another subject you'd like to study in. Where there's lots of graduates now thinking more along the lines of, you know, healthcare or medical related subjects for their postgraduate study. So that could be an opportunity. Again, it doesn't have to be in this country, it could be abroad as well. So that could be a step that you could make. So it's not all about getting a job straight away. You do have options. And I'd like to leave you with one positive note, and that is that in the last downturn, there were companies that still had a shortfall. Okay, by that, I mean that companies who started their recruitment season in the autumn, interviewed people in February or March, made offers at Easter, and then come June, September, X% of people didn't actually start with them because job offers get rescinded. Graduates very often take more than one job offer. So sometimes companies have a shortfall. Now, a lot of graduates think that by the time autumn comes around, all the graduate jobs are filled. I'm going to have to wait for the next round, the next milk round. That's not always the case. I imagine there will be lots of companies with a shortfall again this autumn. So go back to those companies you've been looking at, have another look and see if they've reposted jobs that they couldn't fill for whatever reason. So bear that in mind. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them now. Tiffany?
Got one already for you in the chat, Dan, and
Okay.
it's about the available roles for MBA students during the pandemic.
Right. Now, we don't have many recruiters who come to us looking for MBAs. Most of them look for undergrads and some look for postgraduates. Now, MBA is a brilliant qualification, and you bring so many skill sets to an employer right now that I think you could write a very compelling CV. Now, the thing is, you may have to dig deep for these kind of companies because you will come at a premium. You know, you'll be expecting a higher than a normal graduate salary. I have no way of knowing where those jobs are right now, but it's a very useful qualification. Now, obviously, financial firms will be looking at some point. So at the very least, start making contacts with recruiters, even if they haven't got jobs. Just open the door and get conversations going. Build up your network in this time.
Has anybody else got any questions for Dan? Please feel free to type them into the chat, because we're going to be around in the room until 4 o'clock.
Yep.
Don't worry, take your time if you can't think of anything straight away. So perhaps while you're thinking about doing some questions, you might want to fill out some feedback for us. Really, if you could do that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this particular session went and how the event went in general. So yeah, please fill out some feedback for us. And if you fill out some feedback for us, we'll be able to send you the slides from this session. And also, and I may put this in the chat as well, if you're from the School of Business and Law or Health and Human Sciences and you're doing the LondonMet Passport, you will need a feedback form to collect your points for the passport. And we've got somebody who's just a little late. Don't worry about that. We have got a recording of the session that we are going to be sharing at some point. I believe it's going to be downloaded to our careers portal. But keep the questions coming in. Anything you'd like to ask Dan, it's a golden opportunity for you to do that. Got a question that's just come up about CVs, and it's basically the person's asking if they need to put their details of their referees at the end of page 2, or is it better to omit them and ask for wait for the recruiter to ask for the referees?
Sure, good question. We always advise having that section at the bottom of page 2. Just put available on request. Mainly because it gives you the control, because you may wish to change your referees depending on the employer. So it saves some space as well, which is really important. So you don't need to give too much details. Just put available on request. I'm sure you'd agree with that, Tiffany.
I would absolutely agree, because particularly if you're short of space, you're struggling to get your CV onto 2 pages, putting the full contact details of your referees on there can take a bit of space, and the recruiters are probably going to be more interested about you and your skills and your experience than putting the referees' details down. Got a query about the medical technology field. If you've got any advice about that, Dan. Generally, the lady would like to know where to start and if they're recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, that suggests to me that's a brilliant combination right now. And we're talking to several graduates who are looking to get into the medical field. It's just very competitive. It's quite hard to find these jobs. The best thing is to go on LinkedIn, find the decision maker within an organization that you're interested in, and start a dialogue that way. Many of them will be extremely busy working on various projects at the moment. That they may not have time to be posting vacancies here, there, and everywhere. Plus, a lot of companies are furloughed staff. Let's not forget. So, that the people that remain are working doubly hard to keep those businesses going. So, applying for these jobs, it's going to take a bit more homework. You're going to have to dig around, and you be more creative in the way that you find who's hiring and who isn't. But it sounds a very good degree, very good combination, great skill set. I mean, Tiffany, have you got any advice on that as well?
Medical technology, that's an interesting one, really. But yeah, IT is a good sector to get into at the moment, because the opportunities are there for online and virtual working. So those skills will be a need. And just to follow up to that question, the lady who's asked the question, she says she's completed a biomedical science degree and she wants to know what technology course or degree would be helpful.
A postgraduate course?
I would imagine so.
Yeah. I don't know. You go undergraduate.
Oh, undergraduate. But that's going to take longer. If there's a postgrad you can do.
Well, I mean, UCAS is where to search for these kind of degrees. Would you agree, Tiffany?
Yeah, or I would say, because I actually do work with the School of Computing and Digital Media, that quite a few sort of master's degrees in computing or cybersecurity, we have a lot of courses on cybersecurity. They may want people who've already got some experience in the field, but there will be opportunities out there to join courses where you don't need a technical background to join them. I'm just thinking because if you can do a year's master's degree, it's going to take a lot less time than going off and doing a full 3-year undergraduate in something else. So it's probably worth try the Prospects website. That will help you to search for postgraduate courses. I'm just going to put that one into the chat box.
Yeah, Prospects or Find a Masters.
Yes, that's another very good one as well. Has anybody got any further queries for Dan?
If anyone would like to follow up with me, you're more than welcome to email me specific questions. I'll put my email into the box there.
Thank you, Dan. So there you will be able to see Dan's email on the chat. If do feel free to contact him. And I'd just like to say as well, this is our final session for the Next Steps Employability event. So no more, this is the last one of the event. But thank you so much for attending this event and any others you've enjoyed. And I hope that you've really found it useful. But thank you so much for joining in and participating this afternoon. Also, a big thank you to Dan as well for taking out the time to speak to you. That was I found that really useful and quite positive and uplifting presentation as well, because it is a worry at the moment because of what is going on with COVID. So it's nice to know that there are positive steps that you can take out there.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hopefully it's been of use.
So if there are no further questions, what I'm going to do is we're going to be logging out soon. I'm going to stop the recording. But once again, thank you very much, everyone, for attending, and thank you to Dan for presenting.
Thank you.